I mean, we talked a little bit about your past experience. I mean, crossing the Atlantic twice. You also taught yourself astronavigation on the second trip.
Yeah, that was my achievement of last year. I decided back in November that I was going to do this Atlantic crossing again. It'd been 15 years since I'd last done it. And I've always had an interest in the stars and the sky and what's going on out there. So I thought I'd sign up for an online theory course, and I'd do the online course first and then go out to sea and do the practical. And what actually happened was I didn't do the theory course. I set off out to sea with 3 instruction books, a sextant, and another wedge of books full of numbers, and going, right, I'm going to figure this out while I'm here. And I did. I went nearly insane in the process, but I did figure it out. I started off navigating on the sun. I was like, right, I'm going to find our latitude at noon, which is one of the most basic things that old navigators could do. And there was a qualification I could get at the end of it, which was the Yachtmaster Ocean qualification. And to get that qualification, you need a 600-mile qualifying passage. So me going, right, well, I've got the whole Atlantic. I've got at least 4 attempts at getting this right in 600 miles. And it took me until about day 8 to finally actually put my position on a chart and say, I am here. And then go and tally with the GPS going, actually, I'm pretty close to there. That's good. And then by the end of the trip, once I'd got my hang of navigating with the sun, I'd started using the moon and the planets. And by the end of it, the stars. And doing it on the stars was amazing. So when I wrote my positions down on the chart from my celestial nav, and then I plotted the GPS positions on the chart, those 2 lines were absolutely on top of each other for the last 1,000 miles of the trip. And it was amazing. And then I turned up in Antigua and found a guy that I could sit the exam. So I rocked up in Antigua to this guy saying, you're the first human I've spoken to about this. I think I've just taught myself celestial navigation across the Atlantic. Can I do the exam? He said, right, give me all of your notes and come back tomorrow. So he had the ship's logbook. He had all of my workings out and positions for the whole trip. And he said, come back tomorrow. And if you haven't got it, I'll give you tuition. If you have got it, I'll give you the exam. So I arrived there at 9 o'clock the following morning, bearing in mind I had a taxi booked for the airport at 12:30. And I walked in and he gave me the exam paper. And so I sat down and went through this exam paper, which I had 2 hours to do. And I did it in 45 minutes. And it was only because I'd done this for, I think, 30 days. We were 24 days across the Atlantic. I'd been on the boat for 30 days. But I've been doing this process repeatedly every day, that it was just like a routine and a discipline. So I sat down and was like, I know what all these numbers should be. There was the exam done. And then the final part of the exam was an oral exam where to get this qualification, you had to prove that you had skippered that 600-mile passage. Now, as it turned out, when I joined this boat, I'd signed on as crew, and the owner had told me there was a skipper on board, and I arrived there to find the skipper thought the owner was being the skipper, and the owner had gone home because he'd been taken ill, and he didn't really want to be the skipper, so he was really happy to see me. Oh, you've done this before. So I kind of accidentally fell into skippering this trip, and so I had to work out the provisioning, the watch keeping, the navigation, the weather routing, everything. And by the time I got to Antigua to sit this exam, when he was asking me how did you organise this and this, I had genuinely done all of those things.
Does that make you a star pupil? I'm sorry, I have to say, there was going to be an A-star joke in there as well, but I really won't make that. Before we find out how people can get involved in This Girl Can this weekend, you're also a member of the Port St Mary lifeboat crew as well. And again, I'm guessing you did that because the sea is just so hugely important to you, and also you just want to make sure that other people are as sensible as possible around it.
Yeah, the RNLI is a great opportunity for people in my industry to give something back, so we can go and help with the skills and the knowledge that we have got. But actually, that was through my parents really that I ended up on that. My dad was coxswain on Port St Mary lifeboat. He retired a couple of years ago. So it's always been in the family. And once I was settled on the island long enough, so I've been on the crew since 2005 now. So yeah, that's kind of always going to end up there as well eventually.